Hey, what's up guys, it's Lord Civic. I have thought a long time about how I wanted to specifically do this review, and I felt like the best way to do it is if I was just having an intimate conversation with a friend. So I'm just going to tell you guys, I guess, my likes, my dislikes about the game. Overall, I really loved it. Honestly, I think it's probably one of my favorite games of all time. I will talk spoilers, but that will be at the very, very, very end of the video. Initially in the video, and I will give a warning before I do, and then I'll also put a specific time sample when the spoilers start in the description below. But the first couple of stuff I want to just talk about, like gameplay, sound design, musical score, and graphics. So first thing I want to cover is the musical score. Gustavo, I forgot how to say his last name, did an amazing score with The Last of Us 1. And it's honestly, Last of Us 1 is probably one of my favorite musical scores in a video game of all time. And somehow, some way, he just takes it to a whole nother level in The Last of Us 2. A lot of people don't realize how important a musical score can vastly change, not even an action sequence, but even like a scene. A good example is the Phantom Menace overall. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. The Phantom Menace overall is not really that good of a film. But even if you don't like the very actiony, over-the-topness of the scene, everybody admits that Darth Maul versus Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan is fantastic. Like, the choreography is sometimes just over the top and crazy, but as a little kid, I absolutely love it. And even today, I absolutely love it. And the scene is already like god tier when it comes to god choreography and just action sequences and stuff like that. And added onto that scene is the Duel of the Fates, which is, if not one of the best action sequences, scores of all time. John Williams just like is insane when it comes to like musical scores. But that particular theme, the Duel of the Fates, is just crazy. It already takes an excellent scene, and just elevates it to new heights. And The Last of Us decides to do that over and over and over again. Not only with gut-wrenching emotional scenes, but also just when you see a beautiful landscape, the musical score is just absolutely gorgeous. There was literally some sequences where there would be like an action scene, and I'm supposed to be like taking out clickers and runners, or even the wide variety of other enemy archetypes and new ones. And I would just be like, oh my gosh, this song slaps. Like, it's just so good. And literally all this past week, like since I beat the game last Saturday, I've literally just been listening to the score all week, and like eye for an eye and longing and stuff like that. And I just have to applaud like a lot for Naughty Dog for getting that guy to do the musical score. There's beautiful pieces. There's eerie scenes during some scary parts where I was just like, oh my gosh, this scene is scary, but the musical score just makes it even 10 times scarier. And it literally, I had to create like a whole section of this video specifically for that. Like, musical score is fantastic. Second thing is the sound design. The sound design, I was about to say, like, as I was thinking about it, like, as I was playing the game, I was like, wow, this is probably one of the best sound designs I've ever heard in a game. One of the best. That's what I said. By the end of the game, I was like, okay, this is the best sound design I've ever heard in a game. The soundscape is, if you have a good pair of headphones, or like even like recently over these past like 3 months, if you're like an avid viewer on my channel, I've been inquiring different speakers and stuff like that. I have subs, front channel speakers, center, right channel, surrounds, and even rares. And the landscape soundstage that Naughty Dog did for this game is literally mind-blowing. There were so many sequences where I would be like, wow, this is really good, and then something would happen, and I would just be like, this is just like nothing I've ever heard before. Knockout scenes, or not knockout scenes, because there's just so much to talk about when it comes to sound. Honestly, I can go over this video like 30, 45 minutes just talking about the sound. But what really surprised me is first sound scene was not even, it's not, as I said, it's not a sound scene. We were in like a little gas station type place, I think, and Dina put out a gun. There was a clicker or whatever, and I think I knocked over something. I hit some glass, and like the design of like everything just sounds so realistic. First of all, but I pull out a gun. We make a noise. Some clickers start running towards us. Dina pulls out her gun. She shoots it, right? And in The Last of Us 1, when somebody would shoot it, like all the sound kind of like sounded like equalized on sound stage. In The Last of Us 2, everything is put to perfection where it's like if something's supposed to sound loud, it will sound ridiculously loud. If something like leaves are rustling or snow is falling on the ground or like even rain on drizzling on the ground, it'll be like soft or depending on how wild the storm is and stuff like that. Dina decides to shoot a gun, right? She's on the right side of me in the soundstage. She shoots the gun. It's so loud because I had my sound system turn really loud because all before I heard was just like moaning like zombies and just other stuff. She shoots the gun and I literally paused the game and I screamed, "What the hell, Dina?" Because it was just, I literally had to adjust some different stuff. And literally the audio is just one part of the game, and like you can literally choose exactly where your rear speakers are angled, your front speakers are angled, your center channel speaker, you can have it handle sound effects as well and dialogue. It's just so much care and effort was put into only the design of the sound. It's just stellar. Another like specific thing that I really enjoyed is, first of all, the vast designs of not only the sound effects as you like killed enemies, whether they scream out. There is that new faction group named the Scars, or as the wolves call them, the Seraphites. And when they're whistling and you hear them in the various things, and like honestly, I read the thread and like I thought it would. I mean, not that I thought because like I'm not a game developer, but there was so much put into it, and maybe I don't know if I can find the Twitter thread. I'll link it in the description below. But there was just so much effort. They literally got like professional, like I don't know if it's like competition where they got professional whistlers to create the sound effects for the Seraphites, and it's just like the call outs. I believe every enemy archetype in the game has their own individual name, and I don't think they're calling out like. I saw some people were like, I don't really know if I really like the enemies calling out random names. Like that doesn't really like do anything for me. But if I'm correct, because I died a lot in this game because I was playing on the hardest difficulty, which I'll talk about later in the review. But there were definitely moments where the enemies were called the same name after I died. So I think every individual enemy has the same thing. And they would just be calling out to each other and communicating, and it was just like, it was just crazy. Also, in Last of Us 1, when a clicker made a noise, you'd hear the clicker in that part of the soundstage. But now in this game, if you're indoor, if a clicker makes a noise, their sound is bouncing off all the walls, and you can like pinpoint exactly where it was, but it just adds that extra level of immersion. Last thing, the moment where I was just like, okay, this is the best sounding game I've ever played, was 2 days prior to I got to the sequence of the game where it's like a heavy storm. It rains in real life. Like in my house was like, the house was shaking. Like in my house, like my real house was shaking, and I felt the vibration. I was like, dang, this storm is intense. Play The Last of Us 2 2 days later, and when I say I'm not saying it felt like the storm, like it was like a storm light. It literally felt like the storm in the game. I have a PB4000, and this thing was able to simulate basically as if I was having a storm right inside of my room. It was insane, man. So literally, what I covered so far is musical score and sound. Like Naughty Dog, the sound design is the best I've ever heard in a game. Naughty Dog knocked it right out of the park. Next thing I want to cover is I want to cover gameplay, but I know animations fit within that gameplay category, but literally I have to create an entire section to animations. There is animation galore in this game, to the point where I was at some points I was just like, I love detail, man. Like over maybe 10 years ago, if I saw this, I would have just been like, oh, that's cool. But like now, in the point of my life, I love detail, whether it's in music, games, movies, and I will just absorb everything. And like even me, like I love detail, but I don't know like to literally the extent that they went to. Like I love detail and I know it's a lot, but it's like I'm not gonna notice like absolutely everything. So I know like once I do my second playthrough and stuff like that, I'm gonna notice some even more stuff that I didn't notice the first time because I was just trying to absorb everything in the game. But there's so much animations. Literally, even when you make a gun, like I think like the comparative when it comes to animations, I would compare this game to like Red Dead Redemption. Red Dead Redemption, Arthur Morgan has so many variety of animations for when he eats food, cleans a gun, interrogates somebody, like holds them. There's so much. And I feel like in Last of Us 2, with it being like a linear game, they're able to do more with that, and they just took it to new heights. Literally, when you customize a gun, Ellie will literally pick up makeshift objects that are around the table, like glue, a screwdriver to like get off a piece of the gun, and even like the bow, she takes off the string, and it's just like, I was like, my mind was literally blown just at that one part. I didn't watch, as I said, I didn't watch any of the gameplay, any of the dev talks or whatever. So like, as I was seeing this all in front of my eyes, I was just like, bro, what the hell? Like, I literally couldn't believe it. And that's just one aspect of the game when it comes to crafting. There's also animations for not only how you kill all the enemies, and there is a wide variety of enemy types. And not just enemy types and archetypes, not from like clickers and runners and the new shamblers and the stalkers. Stalkers scared the crap out of me, man. And also another enemy archetype, which I'll talk about later in the story because I don't want to spoil it. But man, it's just absolutely insane. There's so many variety of ways you can kill them, whether it be Molotovs, guns, and there's so many guns, and not even guns. There is melee weapons and so many melee weapons, and I'm pretty sure there's at least 4 or 5 individual animations for each individual melee type that you use in the game, and it's just like, bro, there's so much. Like, it's just so much variety, and like a lot of like developers, they don't put the time and effort in that. And like Naughty Dog, like I appreciate it, and I like, I've seen some of those highlight clips of those things on Twitter, and there's some animations that I haven't even seen when I did my playthrough. I can't wait to do my second playthrough and try to like do the different stuff. You can freaking jump off of a truck or a height object and stab the people or like choke them out. There's so much animations. And not even just the way you kill enemies. There's also animations, a variety of animations for how the enemy can kill you. And let me tell you, I probably saw all of those because I died a lot. I played on the hardest difficulty, and not only the runners or the shamblers or the stalkers, but also the different variety of ways humans can kill you, from the different melee objects they use to the guns they shoot. There were, and I want to, God, there's just so much. It's literally animation galore. One more thing I want to touch on before I'm gonna talk about like the violence and different stuff in the game is the animation. When you do animation of mocap, there's certain details that some people forget. When in some games, like in The Last of Us 1, you kill somebody and you see like they just like pass out and close their eyes. Last of Us 2. There is, for Ellie, there is a 7-8 second animation when you're killing an enemy where she will put the knife on the throat, she'll pull it, and then it'll get kind of stuck for a second, then she'll finish it. And it's not just that. The sound design also carries into this, where once you kill the person, you will hear them like, oh, like make a strain, then it'll get on the throat and they're like, oh, it's like even more painful. And you will literally hear the enemy take their last breath as the blood is going down the throat and like taking over. And you literally, like, I'm not over exaggerating here. You can literally see the life leave the enemy's eyes. And I'm just like, every time I would kill somebody, not even like big deaths or like even like enemy archetypes, like there's a variety of way to kill like zombies, and not zombies, infected as well. But it's just like, bro, that's to the point where it's like so realistic that I actually felt really bad killing each person. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is desensitization to the max. Also, last thing before I get to the next category is, as I said, there's so many variety of ways of, not even clickers, but runners to kill you. Clickers can kill you by ripping out the throat. They can like rip it to your face. I think I saw 5 or 6 individual animations for just like even the runner type infected of killing you. Whether they bite into your throat, they beat you down to the ground and punch you. If there's a whole bunch of them surrounding you, it won't just be one that will beat you down. They will literally 3, 4 of them pile on top of you. And it's just like, you really went in the mocap studio and put 4 or 5 people just beating down on like a ragdoll or whatever the thing is. Obviously, like, they're not really beating down, but it's like, the time and effort is well appreciated, Naughty Dog. Thank you so much. Like, a lot of people don't like appreciate this stuff, but I sure did. And it's just like, you guys just went ridiculous with the mocap and the animations. Like, bravo. Like, I literally have to, like, I'm a sound and like everything, but like, I know we're like halfway through this review, but like, my God, it's just, amazing the time and effort that they put in the game. Honestly, I would say that's another category where they probably did the best in the industry, because it's just like so much time and effort was put into just that one thing. And like, I'm just talking about this little stuff, but there's just so much other stuff that I'm not even talking over. Maybe I didn't notice or whatever, but it's just like, man, like seriously. Next thing I want to cover is gameplay and AI. The gameplay, I don't know how it is on the lower difficulties. Some people even said it was pretty hard even on the lower difficulties. I think Freddie W, I follow him on Twitter, and he was saying like even at like the medium difficulties it's pretty hard. I personally played on the survival difficulty, and let me tell you, it was hard. First of all, I'm a PC gamer now. I used to play on consoles predominantly, but now I play. So every time I pick a controller, it's kind of like I don't have to relearn it, but it's kind of like I have to get used to it again. And let me tell you that it was a pretty hard experience. Thankfully, I played The Last of Us 1 prior to Last of Us 2 coming out. I played it the week before over the last, and that honestly, that's a really important thing. If you haven't played the game yet, please do play Last of Us 1 first, and like it will I don't know the word. But like it's a better experience if you play the game before. It goes right in. But the gameplay is vastly improved, not only with the addition of going fully prone, crawling on the ground, which just adds a whole nother level of gameplay, but also like crawling through the grass, hiding behind objects, diving, crawling through corners, like you can hold X and push forward. Like it adds so much diversity to the game. As I said, the different archetypes. The AI is so smart. I wouldn't say I wouldn't say it's the best I've ever seen in the game, but they're smart as hell, man. I would say it's like top 1% in the industry. They're on the hardest difficulty anyway. They're smart as hell. I tried to outsmart them. There were some encounters that took me like an hour or like two hours to figure out, because it was like I would kill one person and then I kill another, and I would make one mistake, like I'd slip out, my leg would be out, peeking out, or either, which, in Last of Us 1, if you have a AI companion, they'd literally be standing in front of the enemy, and the enemy wouldn't see them, and you could just, like, do whatever. You have to literally angle yourself in around objects and stuff like that, where your companion also has to be able to hide. The enemy sees your AI companion sticking out, your cover is blown. Your cover is blown. And it's just like, they really programmed this game like really, really well. I mean, there was some parts where it was just like, oh, maybe it was a glitch or whatever, but it would be like I'll be showing, but they didn't see. But it's like, irregardless, the AI itself is pretty smart, and I'm pretty sure with patches and even on the PS5. Ah, God, I didn't even touch about the PS5. Sound design, the PS4, the PS3, Last of Us sounded good. PS4, Last of Us sounded even better. The PS5 is going to have a sound processor that is basically, the sound processing is basically going to be more powerful than the entire PS4 itself. So I can't even imagine what Naughty Dog's going to be able to do with sound design, not only with The Last of Us 2 remastered, but also when they make their first full-blown next-gen title. But anyway, as I was saying, gameplay. AI is so smart. They will communicate their decisions, and as I said earlier, they will pinpoint, call each other, communicate. They will not go by themselves. Usually you can like isolate, like, I know like Batman Arkham Knight, they'll send like one enemy. The thugs, they'll send like one enemy. They're like, no, hey, can you go to this area? In The Last of Us 2, they'll go like, hey, can you go to this area? Hey, yeah, come with me. And it's just like, the moment that really blew my mind, like, the AI is like smart all over the game, but the moment that really blew my mind is I killed an enemy, I ran in the house, I hid under the bed. In any other game, the enemy will walk right by the bed, and you'll be like, I can walk by him, I'll slit the throat, kill him, whatever. Last of Us 2, I had 2/4 health, or one half health. This dude decides to walk by the bed, and I'm like, why is he lingering? Why is he standing there? He crouches down, looks under the bed. He's like, oh, he sees me. And this is another thing. There's definitely games where enemies will look under and they'll see you. They'll be like, oh, they'll see me. This dude proceeds to grab me by my arm. There's no button prompt to break loose, because obviously you wouldn't be able to break loose at that point if they get you the element of surprise. And I'm like, oh, I'm about to like pull out a gun or something. Beats me down with a hammer, and I'm just like, that was one of the encounters that took me like an hour and 30 minutes to figure out what to do. I was like, wow, like this game is on some next level stuff. And as I said, I I died a lot in that game because of the level of difficulty that I played on. I probably saw every level, every animation variation of Ellie being able to die in the game. Like it was just that's how much I died. I saw probably everything. Um, Last category I want to cover before I get into spoiler territory is graphics. Um, it's not the best graphics I've ever seen. I would say on console, probably, yeah. On console, yes. And honestly, I played not Last of Us, Red Dead Redemption 2 on the Xbox One X, and I might be remembering incorrectly, but I believe The Last of Us 2 looks better even than Red Dead Redemption 2 on the Xbox One X. Now, it doesn't look better than Red Dead Redemption does on PC, or even, I'm guessing Horizon Zero Dawn comes out next month, August 7th, I believe. I know it's not going to look better than how it looks on PC. But on PlayStation 5, it probably will look better than Red Dead Redemption looks on PC, because PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X are supposed to be looking like really powerful. But as I said, graphics in this game are ridiculous, from foliage to draw distance to high resolution scan textures. Everything is detailed. And let me tell you, I saw even the corners of everything, because I was trying to find all of those specific cards in the game. I wanted the platinum in this game, and they just they just they really did a good job with these graphics. Like it's absolutely insane how much detail they not only put into environments, and HDR implementation is mind blowing. It's great as well, but in textures of skin detail. When it comes to facial features, it beats Red Dead in that category. Um, Naughty Dog, when it comes to graphics and just anything in general, getting every single ounce of power out of the PlayStation, they are literally wizards, man. Wizards. They are just able to do something with these games and optimize them in a way that they get every ounce of juice of the PlayStation device, and they just do such a good job with it. Graphics are across the board, from skin detail to clothing to even when it's raining, the detail of the rain going down Ellie's backpack, or even her raincoat, or literally putting on her hoodie, and it's just so much detail. And wow, I can't even imagine what they're going to do on the PS5. Last thing I want to touch on, last thing I want to touch on the graphics is what they were able to do race tracing wise. It's not picture perfect, but it's just like, how did you get this running on a PlayStation 4? This isn't only 7-year-old hardware. When the PlayStation 4 came out, it was still like even older hardware than when it like officially launched. Like it was still even behind PCs. And what they were able to do with like the race tracing side of this game is just insane. You can see trees reflecting off of the water in the lake and just different stuff. It just blew my mind. The one moment where I was just like, okay, this is some next level stuff, is I broke through a window. The glass shattered on the ground. There was like a dashboard with glowing lights on it. And I walked back from the glass because I wanted to see what it looked like, the glass on the ground. And I noticed that the dashboard was reflecting off of the glass that I had broken. That's not linear, that's not structured, that wasn't supposed to happen. And then I was like, oh, it's reflecting off, that's really cool. But then I moved from left to right to back, and the light actually bounced off angled specifically how it would in real life. And I was just like, literally this entire game, I was just like, this literally feels like a next-gen title. The entire thing, when it came to sound, score, graphics, AI, and I just can't even imagine what they're going to be able to do with the PlayStation 5, man. Like, I'm actually somewhat scared of what they're going to be able to do. Last thing before I get into the sport category I want to cover is, I'm not really a big person. Well, I love being a completionist, but a lot of these games that are coming out lately make getting all these collectibles and stuff boring and not fun. But Last of Us 2 does a fantastic job when it comes not only to collecting all the various cards, but also opening the safes, the puzzles and the mind games, and like reading the bio notes. Like I probably haven't read so much in a game in years, but I absolutely loved every experience of it. Learning the history and the backstory of like every area, and then also like you would see like somebody be like, "Oh, I left this safe in this building. The code is our birthday, or the code is our wedding anniversary," and then you have to look around the room, and there would be like a calendar on the wall, and you'd have to like do it. And then there was like one point where they were speaking about something like in the first area, Seattle, where there would be like, "Oh, if you check this shop, there will be a specific safe in there," and like it also led to getting like an upgrade in a gun. And it's just like, man, when it comes to story, gameplay, like gameplay, graphics, like Naughty Dog knocked it out of the park. Like this, just that alone made this game already like one of my favorite games ever. But now I'm going to hop into the spoilery section of the video. So if you have not played the game yet, or you haven't beaten it yet, please hop off of the video and let's cut into that now. So here we go. I'm going to talk about the story portion of the game. Even saying the things I'm about to say about the game, I know I'm stepping into a minefield, but I just have to get this off my chest. As I said in the beginning of the review, I love the game a lot, and even right now, it's currently one of my favorite games of all time. After I do my second playthrough and the story resonates with me a little more, I honestly think this actually might become my favorite game of all time in the end. But I loved it. I loved it so much. I loved every second of it. But before I hop into why I loved it so much, I will say I understand why people don't like it. I have 2 points to talk about with that. But first point is the leak, the big leak. I read about it. I didn't read the specific leaks, but I read like threads about and like saw the post that like a big portion of the Last of Us had leaked. And after that, people were just their opinion was set, man. They were just like, I saw people like, "Oh, I'm not pre-ordering." I'm like, what could have possibly been in that leak for people to say that they're not going to buy a sequel to one of the best games of all time? And I did such an excellent job on dodging the leaks. Blocked all keywords on Twitter, wasn't reading Instagram comment sections, wasn't reading comment sections that had to do anything with the game. I was good. And all this protest and stuff have been happening in the world and stuff. And I decided to go to John Boyega's protest speech that I believe it took place in Europe or whatever, but I watched a YouTube video. I scrolled down and reading the comment section, seeing what everybody's opinion is on him like speaking out. And I read this little thing that goes on and says that Joel dies and you play as Ellie's last game. I was like, who the hell is Joel? And I was like, bro, what? Like, I was so careful. I was so careful, man. My heart sank. I was like, come on, dog. I haven't watched any gameplay other than the original E3 thing. I haven't seen anything. I haven't even seen the dev talks to the gameplay. And I was like, I'm really going to get a big portion of the game spoiled for me because of that little just reading protest. And it's just like, people just want to ruin people's lives for the sake of doing it. And so, yeah, I knew, I didn't, and I think the last part of the sentence said that then you play as Joel's killer in the game. But after I wrote that part, and I was like, who is Joel? I was like, I didn't read the rest of it. So I knew Joel died. With saying that, I didn't know the context of him dying. I didn't know when he died. I didn't know who he died. I didn't know where he died. I just knew that he was going to die at some point. And having that thought in my head, I was kind of like, okay, this is why people are pissed. But there was a lot more that was in the leak. Obviously, it was revealed that Abby kills him. Then you have to play as a killer and different stuff like that. But I didn't know all of that. All I knew, and like, let me just say this. As I said, I understand why people already had their mindset. If I read that not only people's favorite character in the game died, but not only basically some people's favorite characters on PlayStation, but some of people's favorite characters in video games or any type of media ever died, I'd feel some type of way. And his killer was you have to play as her, and like the backstory of like oh her dad Joel like killing your dad, and I'll cover that in later. I don't think I'm a very open-minded individual, but I don't think I would have bought the game still and gave it a chance, but it was just like I would have probably already had my mindset. And I feel so bad for the developers and like Neil and all the people at Naughty Dog, but as a gamer, because I'm not a game developer, I feel bad for the gamers personally that read the spoilers. They I'm not like I'm not dissing anybody and saying like every honestly like some people played the game and didn't like it, but like an amazing storytelling and gameplay design game was ruined for you by reading those leaks. Obviously, there's like people that are justified to say they played the game, they didn't read any of the leaks, and they played the game themselves, and they didn't like it. And there's nothing against those people. As I said, I liked it. But for people that read the leaks, like it's just you're not gonna get the same experience that I got and like other people that didn't read the leaks. Like it's just not there. Now, with saying that, another reason that I want to touch on is why I don't think a lot of people like the game is not only in video games, but also in a lot of media today, there's not a lot of risks being taken at all. Not even in music. A lot of the music on radio and stuff that you hear is very samey. Everything sounds the same. Everything's safety. It's not safety. That's not a word. Everything's safe. Nothing really like takes any risks. Some of my favorite stuff ever in media is risk-taking stuff. I'm a huge Kanye West fan, and my favorite album by him is Yeezus. When I tell people that, they're like, what the hell? Like, that makes no sense. Like, he's made My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, Graduation, Late Registration, College Dropout, and all these other, and 808s and Heartbreaks, all these other albums to pick from. But my favorite is his most outlandish and sporadic album, Yeezus. I love risk-taking. I love very outside-the-box thinking. So, when I was playing The Last of Us 2, that's what the entire game feels like. Not for the point of subversion, but to keep you on the point where you cannot guess what's going to happen next. And I would just get so tense at some parts where I didn't know what was going to happen. Like when Joel was like about to die, like I knew he was gonna die, but literally like when he was killing him, when Ellie was like getting there, I was like, oh my gosh, it's only gonna be able to save him. Like I was, I was like, there was so many sequences during the movie. And not movie. No, I said movie because this game literally feels like a movie, man. The torturing of Nora, the murder of a freaking pregnant lady when Mel dies. I was like, no, okay, okay, yeah, she'll probably kill Owen or whatever. But Ellie killed Mel. I was like, bro, what? A pregnant girl died? First of all, a pregnant girl dying in a freaking movie would be controversial as hell. But to do it in a game, Naughty Dogs is ballsy, man. Like there's some story beats and some connection. Everything just goes so smoothly. Another thing I want to cover. I haven't covered it. Joel's death. Now, with saying that Joel's death, going in the game, I was just like, Naughty Dog wouldn't kill him unless they had a specific reason. And Joel dying, a lot of people are saying, Joel would never make a decision like that. He would never obviously reveal his name and just willingly walk into a lion's den or whatever. You got to think about the specific scenario. They were attacked by runners. They had no way of escaping, getting way back to Jackson. Abby said, and they communicated with Abby. They bonded with her a little and stuff like that. They had their little like fight. So they kind of trusted her. I mean, Joel obviously was like offlandish but Joel has been in Jackson for 4 years. So I would say he's repressed a little about how his survival instinct is. But he still has that same mentality. You can even see that. People say Joel willingly reveals his name to the group. That is not what happened. As soon as Joel walks into the cabin, he is eyeing the situation, looking around, seeing how many people are, and he's like looking in the environment. Tommy willingly says his name and then prompts his brother to say his name as well. And Joel is like backs him in the corner. Not saying it's Tommy's fault and Joel's blood is on his hands, but Joel didn't willingly say his name. Tommy prompted him to say it. So a lot of people are saying like a lot of these story decisions, like these characters wouldn't act a certain way, wouldn't stuff. And it's like, honestly, when you think deeply about it, all this stuff interconnects. And Naughty Dog is not a person that's going to leave just plot holes open. They have spent years fine-tuning this script. And it's just, it's ridiculous. There's so many sequences, and a lot of people are saying, okay, I know the story, I didn't have to play the game, or I watched a streamer play it and I didn't like it. In a lot of games, storytelling is told in the way of you fight enemies, kill bad guys, no talking, then when you get to a cutscene, the story proceeds forward. And I love that a lot of games are doing, a lot of these games do it, like it's been a thing for years, but I feel like they're getting to the point of perfection doing it. Red Dead, when you're riding on horseback or walking with one of your companions or whatever, you guys talk and chat and the story's pushed forward that way. Same thing's done in God of War. Same thing is done in freaking Half-Life Alex. Alex talking and voicing all her stuff to Russ, I think his name. I think I'm saying that right. I haven't played it since the beginning of the year, but Russ. And it's just like all this communicating over the time, it just builds storytelling. And I feel like The Last of Us has been the best to do that. Dina, Ellie talking with each other, building a relationship, talking about the world and just different stuff with it, adds just a whole nother level of immersion. I'm going to get into the other like dialogue and other characters and stuff like that. There's so much to explore in this game. Literally, on Seattle Day 1, exploring the whole city of Seattle took me about maybe 4 or 5 hours to find everything. I got the achievement for going in every building, exploring everything. I don't know if I got all the cards and stuff in it, but I explored everything, all the notes, all the stuff on the wall. There's literally a cutscene that you can miss in the game if you don't go into the music shop between Dina and Ellie, where she plays her rendition of Take On Me, which is probably, if not one of the most beautiful renditions of the song I've ever seen. And when I played it, I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, this is a cool experience that everybody's going to enjoy in the game. It's a completely optional cutscene that you can miss. I was reading comments on the video, and I couldn't even watch the entire video because this game was just so heart-wrenching for me. I'm still trying to like emotionally recover. But it's just such a beautiful rendition, and it's like, it's completely missable. And there's just so many stuff in the game where it's kind of like completely missable. And it's just like, watching gameplay or watching a streamer, they're going to be talking over that. You might miss it. And there's like so much dialogue shared in between the characters. Even in the later game, Abby and Lev, their relationship is just amazing. And so crazy. I'm going to touch on that a little. But Lev was like one of my favorite characters. And another thing I have to talk about, there is definitely media where, and I don't know if I even really like believe in this kind of foolishness, but social justice warriors agendas are pushed. Last of Us is not pushing social justice warrior agendas at all. Like, it's literally and I can't even really think of anything off the top of my head where it does it, but there's a point where it's like, oh, we're gonna have a female character role set for this specific thing, and we just want like representation. It does not feel like that. It all makes sense within the confines of the story. Like, it all makes sense. It doesn't feel forced or at all. Like, at all. Gina, Ellie, Abby, nothing. Like, at all. Now, with saying that, I did not like Abby at the beginning of the game. Obviously, because she killed Joel, but she just seemed like a very, like, off-puttish character. But it got to the point where I was halfway through the story, and then you play Abby, and I'm like, okay, this is like another flashback, or you're supposed to just see the day. You're going to play as one day as her. But then I went into my skill tree, and I was like, wait a second. This is an entire skill tree. And I thought the game was over. Like, when Abby's at the hold the gun, I'm like, we're about to see the point leading up to the day. But no, that's literally just half the game. You literally play as Abby, and I was like, oh, Naughty Dog is bold, bro. They are bold if they think. And as I said, I'm an open-minded person. I can't even imagine somebody that not was like closed-minded or had read the spoilers or whatever. I'd be oh shoot. Naughty Dog is bold for having us play the basically same length of the game as we did with Ellie as like the character that killed Joel. I was like, this is, and then I was like, okay, this is why. I was like, this is why people hate the game. But then I was like, oh dang, I don't really like Abby, man. Like I liked her, like she was like cool and stuff. I was like, I don't know if I want to play an entire game as Abby. But then I got closer and I learned about like Manny and her relationship with Mel and Owen, and her story is just so good and so rich. And I was just like, okay, I'm starting to like her. The point where it clicked and I was like, okay, I actually might like Abby a little more than Ellie was when she met the Scars, or as the wolves call them, the Seraphites. And when her relationship with Lev is just, it was so good. Like that was probably my favorite relationship in not only the game but the entirety of like this Last of Us series. Um, I first of all, I thought Lev was a guy. When they say that people call him Lily and he like cut off his hair, or he, she, I, well he, I'm just calling him he. Cut off his hair. I was just like, bro, I was like he. Nothing ever. That's what I was saying. Like when people say these social justice warrior genders were pushed, it never felt forced, and I was just like, this is probably, if not Lev, is probably, if not one of my favorite characters in gaming history. Like I love the character and the relationship, and as like Abby and Lev were just talking to each other and story was being pushed forward, not only just in cutscenes but just dialogue that they were sharing throughout the game. It was just, man, so good. This is not really, I guess I should have covered this in like my gameplay section of this. But this game is downright terrifying, man. I remember when I played The Last of Us 1, and I really consider only like maybe one or two sequences in that game like actually like horror scary. Last of Us 2 throughout the game is just downright terrifying. Obviously my tolerance for what scares me is up here now. Before it was like down here. But like Naughty Dog is bold, not only just in terms of story, but like they were just like, for what people can handle in violence and what is scary, they are super duper duper bold for what they put in this game. There is jump scares out the wazoo. The stalkers stare the ever living crap out of me the first time that Ellie shows up and you see them, and the rat king. The Rat King scenario when Abby, and also like Abby has some of the coolest set pieces in the game, like the sky part and going down the hospital and like everything. That whole sequence is just downright terrifying, man. When I saw the Rat King, I was like, you see all this stuff and like rip the hole throughout like the ambulance shot. I was like, what the hell is this thing? And I was like, okay, the Naughty Dog's on their Resident Evil-ish. I saw the Rat King, and and Abby's like, holy shit! I was just like yelling, like screaming back. And the only thing I couldn't even just like yell, I was like yelling and screaming in fear, but I was also just laughing my head off. Like, man, I was like, what? Naughty Dog, you're really putting this in the game, and just like, oh god, like. I can honestly just talk about this for an hour, but in the end, like I really like the story. In retrospect, when you think about everything, everything makes sense. Honestly, with the Last of Us show, like it's supposed to be made by the Chernobyl people. If you haven't seen Chernobyl, please watch it. Fantastic show, probably one of the best shows of all time. I was like, oh yes, we are getting some extended storytelling on Ellie and Joel, but I don't care what the hell they do now in the show. Last of Us 1 created this vast universe, basically, of not only the infected, but of hunters, the fireflies, the checkpoints, and all the specific stuff. Last of Us 2 takes that to a whole nother level. Not only in pushing story forward about what we learn more about the infected and different archetypes, but they add the various factions from Scar / Seraphites, from the wolves or WLF to the different infected types, and also the freaking during the epilogue the Rattlers. Like it just does such a good, and like this is like, a lot of people don't really care about world building in shows, but this is gonna be excellent for the show. And like, this is like some Star Wars type world building type stuff, man. Like, I was absolutely amazed, and like literally as I was playing a game and I'm absorbing like all the other stuff, like the sound and stuff and different stuff, I literally kept on saying, "Wow, this game does a really, 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 really good job with world building," and it just like continued to surprise me as I went throughout the story. Um, Last thing is, I guess I should talk about the end of the game. The story is not a revenge story. And a lot of people think that's what it is going into it, that Ellie is seeking her revenge. And honestly, in the end, the story is what from I've got about it, and like other stuff that I read about online, other people that liked it as well, and was resonating with me, is the story is really about like let me see. Okay, and this I was figuring out the way I want to say this. This goes exactly with even in real life. When you hold on to anger and you are upset at one thing, hate will literally absorb you. That literally happens in the shirt I'm watching in Star Wars. Hate absorbs Anakin. And literally throughout the game, we see Ellie hating Abby with all of her heart, holding on to this vengeance, holding on to all the bad characteristics and hints of evil that we see in Joel in the first game. And that just carries over. And what a lot of people don't understand is, and as I said, this relates to real life, is when you hold on to anger, the reason people want to hold on to anger is because they don't have to think about why they're sad or angry. When you let go of anger, the only thing you're left with is pain. You're literally left with pain, and you have to then deal with that pain and figure out how you were going to improve yourself and how you're going to move on with the life. Ellie didn't think. She just did. Even towards the end of the game when Tommy was just like, she gave up. Like, not Ellie gave up, but she was just like, I'm going to just let it go. Tommy came back, and Ellie was still holding on to that hate. Abby spared Ellie's life, but she still held on to that hate. And not until the very end of the game, where Ellie had that flashback of seeing Joel, like, the night before, like, I guess, him dying, that she was just like, not before him dying, of him playing the guitar, she was just like, what am I doing? Like, seriously. And that was at that moment where she literally broke down and she was just left with pain. Like, she let go of anger and she was just left with pain. And that's a huge problem even in real life, as I said. And I'm not saying this is, obviously some people like generally didn't like the game and didn't like the story, but I feel like a small category of people, that's literally what happened with the game. They are angry at Abby. They don't want to let go. They just want to hold on to their anger. They don't want to be left with pain. That's just it. And honestly, all in all, as I said, I loved the gameplay. I loved the sound. I loved everything about this game. In the end, this will honestly probably be my favorite game of all time. I even bought the art book, which is, even going through the art book, it has a concept art of like the storytelling throughout the game. Even going through the art book was just like really hard. This game is really sad, bleak, depressing at some points. Literally, the Friday before I beat the game, I was wondering why I was literally in real life depressed as hell, and I couldn't figure it out. And I was like, "Oh, it's a game." And then I was just like, "Let me just." This game was a journey, man, and it resonated with me so well. And it's just like, Naughty Dog, I really applaud you. Thank you for giving me and all gamers everywhere this experience. I know not everybody appreciates it or likes it. Not just appreciate it, but a lot of people don't even like it. But like me and a whole bunch of other people, we are just so thankful for all the work that you guys have done. You guys knocked it out of the park. Um, I will definitely be purchasing every Naughty Dog game that comes out in the future. And I can't wait to see what Last of Us 2 looks like on the PlayStation 5. I'm going to be getting PlayStation 5 day one. Literally, this game, I know Miles Morales and like all the other stuff is coming out on PlayStation 5. But Last of Us 2 remastered on PlayStation 5 is going to be worth the price of admission alone for me. So, this is a very controversial statement. If I had to give this like a numerical score, I would give this game a 10 out of 10. I loved it. In my eyes, it is, if not on the edge of perfection, perfection. Like, it's just, I loved it so much. I loved every minute of it. Sound, gameplay, graphics, story. I have, if one grievance to speak about, the kind of playing from Ellie to Abby was a kind of bumpy for like the first hour, but after that, I dived right in and I was like enjoying it. So I love the game. 10 out of 10. What are you gonna put in the titles? That I love The Last of Us. So all I just have to say is thank you, Sony. Thank you, Naughty Dog. You guys given me one of, if not one of my favorite stories ever told in any type of media ever, and one of my favorite experiences I've ever had in my life. So yeah, that's my review of The Last of Us 2. I know this video was long, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you like the content that you see in this video, please make sure to hit that like, subscribe button. And with saying that, I hope you guys all have a good day, life, and please don't give in the hate that leads to the dark side. Hope you guys have a good day.